big numbers got together yesterday, along with state representatives, calling for new laws that they have in motion. Will Democrats vote these down? One of the big ones. Hey, if you're a felon caught with a firearm, you can't have a firearm under any circumstance in Pennsylvania. If you're a felon, you're going to jail mandatorily. Yeah, but what about Larry? Larry will stop him. No, Larry won't be able to stop it. This is a big moment here. Will Democrats throw themselves in front of Larry Krasner to protect his notion that when you tell people it's a felon, of course you don't want a felon with a gun. They're a felon. Give me a break. How about a cop not convicted with a gun? Oh, no, that's Larry Krasner doesn't want that. So I'll get to that. A lot of detail on that. In other words, the suburbs, yesterday, Montco and Bucks County came together, and they laid out the unbelievable increase in violence, catalytic converter theft, and other things happening in the suburbs that we all know. And at least one of them laid it at the feet of these prosecutors in the big cities, Larry Krasner. I just want it to grow in intensity. I want it to be more direct. That the suburbs says to Philadelphia, if you don't do something about this clown, then we're not going to be friendly toward you in any way, shape, or form. I don't know why they would either. New mayor and all. That might help things a little bit. I mean, Kenny only knows the Wegmans that are in the suburbs. I don't know if he knows any other suburban roads. Probably got a map, Dan, of every Wegmans in the area. But I want to play first and just say a word, the passing of Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah.
I haven't seen too much of it, but this shouldn't be a moment to just savage someone who's passed. The media calling her a moderate. She wasn't a moderate. She was a very liberal person. But according to all accounts that I can tell, Dianne Feinstein was well thought of on a personal level. There was no acrimony, none of that stuff. It's just not right to pile on and be making a political point. But I'm going to play you two highlights of Dianne Feinstein over the years. The first one we're going to play, I think you're going to demand, if I get 10 people, Dan, at least demanding, we hear it again later in the show.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my top 5 clips of all time.
Yeah.
And in fact, occasionally, if you tell us one of your all-time favorite clips, particularly if I'm involved in that moment, we will play it on Fridays. It's a bunch of these snot-nosed little kids, no other way of putting it, and they're progressive mentors who barge into her office. Now, she's a very liberal woman, climate, whatever, and they're demanding that she immediately, otherwise they're not going to be alive. Dan, I'd say they're about 7 or 8, right? They look about that. Maybe they're 6. No, they got to be 7 or 8.
Yeah, I would say so.
And particularly the one little girl goes, we'll be impacted by this, not you. Oh, my God. It's just, you'll hear it.
You'll be dead.
Just the way she says, impacted by it, the coaching. And there's one woman who said, I think she voted for him. And Dianne Feinstein says, how old are you? 16. Well, you couldn't vote for me. So listen to this, and in her own grandmotherly way, Dianne Feinstein comes out of her office. These kids, unannounced, barge in with a couple other teachers. It's from a very progressive Shishi academy in California, and they're confronting her, demanding at that moment that she pass the Green New Deal. Otherwise, all of them are going to be dead within the next 10 to 12 years. Listen to this exchange.
Ask you to vote yes on the Green New Deal.
Please. Okay, I'll tell you what. We have our own Green New Deal.
Some scientists have said that we have 12 years to turn this around.
Well, it's not going to get turned around in 10 years. What we can do,
Senator, if this doesn't get turned around in 10 years, you're looking at the faces of the people who are going to be living with these consequences.
The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people and all
you know
for the
what's
people.
interesting about this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway. I don't respond to that. I've gotten elected. I just ran. I was elected by almost 1 million vote plurality. And I know what I'm doing. So, maybe people should listen a little bit.
I hear what you're saying, but we're the people who voted you. You're supposed to listen to us. That's your
How old are
your
you?
job.
How old
I'm
are you?
16. I
It doesn't matter. We're the ones who's going to be
Words mean
impacted.
something.
It doesn't matter. We're going to be the ones who are
Oh,
impacted.
that kid.
I understand that. I have 7 grandchildren. I understand it very well.
Senator, the cost of
And-
not taking this action is far higher than the
Oh,
cost of what the Green New Deal will be. And there
Here's
is
what-
enormous
They're
popularity
relentless.
for this bill around
Okay.
the whole country.
Here's
And we're
what
asking you to
we
be
are
brave and
proposing.
do this for us and for your grandchildren.
I'm trying to do the best I can, which was to write a responsible resolution.
Any plan that
that
doesn't
has-
take bold,
Okay.
transformative action is not going to be what we need.
We
Well,
need your
you know
leadership.
better than I do.
Why
So
don't you
I think one day you should run for the Senate.
Great.
And
We
then
have
you
to
do
let
it your
us be
way.
you.
But by
We have
that
to let us
time-
be
In the
you.
By
meantime,
that time, there's
I
going to be a
just,
big problem.
I
We
just
have a
won a
letter
big
for you.
election.
All right. So, this idea, look, it's great to encourage kids to be involved and do all that. But you know what this reminds me of, Dan? I would headline it for this show. A dozen of Josh Shapiro's sons are in that room with Dianne Feinstein. And how about the death penalty? How's that fair? Oh, my God. That one girl with the impact, just the accent, the kid. Oh, goodness. And the teacher or the aide. How old are you? That was Sharp by Dianne Feinstein. I think that's like 15 to 20 years ago. But it was a great moment. Let's salute her for that, particularly since she's a liberal. Finally, someone who in a nice way is saying, are you kidding me? You barge in here. You're going to tell me what to do with
I think she handled that really well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I-
She
I-
tried several times to say,
I don't know if I could. I would start yelling back.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know me.
Spell impacted, kid. Yeah, there you go. Now, here's the other side of Dianne Feinstein that I've gone after in a while that represents the left and their view. And again, by all accounts, Tammy Bruce, who's often on Fox News Channel, worked back when she was a liberal in her office and said what a warm and sweet woman Dianne Feinstein was. Mark Levin has a nice piece today saying, look, we can differ. Someone like this is not obnoxious. It's not the same thing as, you can name the person. And in her passing, let's just all be together recognizing that, and not the political savagery. Listen to Feinstein. And Kamala Harris, I believe in this, if I remember right, Dan, is seated next to her when they're quizzing Amy Coney Barrett, not for the Supreme Court. This was for the rung below it. But they knew if Trump got his way, he was going to put Amy Coney Barrett into that seat. Here's how it sounded.
So many of us on this side have this very uncomfortable feeling that, dogma and law are two different things. And I think whatever a religion is, it has its own dogma. The law is totally different. And I think in your case, Professor, when you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you. And that's of concern when you come to big issues that large numbers of people have fought for years in this country.
Oh, my God. Spell it out. It's always abortion here. Okay. So, this was widely panned. I believe she apologized ultimately. In other words, everybody knows you better not go there unless there is something so outrageous and specific based on a person's religion that it disqualifies them. That's a no-no. And she danced around it, and that's where we ended up. Okay, speaking of that, we are going to have a Republican nominee for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, Carolyn Carluccio from Montgomery County, join us at 12:30. Rare interview. She's an originalist. I'm thinking of Amy Coney Barrett in that sense, and Alito and some of the others, and should be on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court versus her opponent. This is the most important election of this year. If you don't vote in this, then you don't get it. You don't get how this works. We see now what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's all about, and there won't be another vote on a Pennsylvania Supreme Court until 2025. So this would make it 4-3. She'll be here at 12:30. All right. Now, I mentioned on the crime front, I'm thrilled with this, and we are going to hear from the chief of police out in Warrington. He's the head of the chiefs of police in Bucks County. Yesterday, a bunch of lawmakers, Republicans, I think one Democrat, got together with a number of bills they want passed. The key one, and this is headed for Larry Krasner, he's the only one that doesn't do this, is to say you're a felon. If you're caught with a firearm, you will get mandatory jail time. Now, Krasner does not do that. He says we're not going to arrest that's the only time Daniel Outlaw ever publicly differed with him. This is insanity. You can't have felons walking around with guns. And he says, well, how is a felon supposed to protect himself? That's interesting. So how many police departments? It was a great number of them. I think, let's see. I think I read 20 or so. And the chief of police who will join us, Daniel Friel, president of the Police Chiefs Association of Bucks County, said, we've seen increases in nearly every category of crime that affects the average citizen. Robbery, burglary, thefts from vehicles, retail thefts, thefts of catalytic converters, firearm thefts. We've seen a 32% increase in thefts from vehicles since last year, 28 over the average of the past 3 years. Theft of catalytic converters, Warrington Township, up 85%. And that's a 237% increase over the past 3-year average. Most disturbing, there's already a 130% increase in firearms offenses, which is an 89% increase over the past 3 years. Now, in the map in my mind, I have to look it up, but Warrington Township, Dan, is farther out into the suburbs. It's not a border town. It's not Cheltenham or something like that. You're starting to see this stuff reach farther and farther out. Why? Well, criminals from Philadelphia, for one reason or another, figure these would be easy pickings, I guess. Maybe they've already, somebody else has territory in Philadelphia. And most of these people are from Philadelphia. Now, for about 10 years, I've been talking about the fact how the suburbs have changed, how people from Philadelphia took over Montgomery County. They bring the same nonsense with them. There were Montgomery County police there and representatives. Bucks County is the place it's holding its own. We've already seen Chester County with Democrats, and people out there in Chester County now have a big vote coming up this November. Are they going to continue to vote for these Democrats? You saw what they did. They're not serious about protecting the public. No one can dispute that. But now these people in the suburbs are actually talking about Larry Krasner. One of them, State Representative Joe Hogan from Langhorne, said, what's happening in our cities right now is a choice. The decline, the prosecutorial decisions is a choice to allow violent criminals to be released out on bail to go back and commit more crimes. This morning, I learned that an individual who was picked up in the burglary and rioting 2 days ago was released on bail on a murder 3 charge. They were right back out there committing more crimes. Yes, this is what Larry Krasner is going to do. So does it help when you see this sort of suburban pressure on Larry Krasner? Yeah, it's an all hands on deck. He's not going to go down with one fell swoop. He will fight back. He will attack the suburbs too. Does this all the time. He'll then send Jane Rowe, his spokesperson, out there to say, what about this? What about this suburbanite who threw a piece of gum on Broad and Market? What about that? Keep your gum in the suburbs. They do this type of stuff. It's ridiculous, right? He's not going to go down easily. Yeah, but I mean, how many forces do we need against Krasner? We need the whole world against him. I'm calling the front lines of the suburbs, Washington, Harrisburg. You need the whole world to take on this guy because you are taking on really George Soros. All these other pipsqueak George Soros people, they're small potatoes. Some of them got pushed over like in San Francisco. This guy is the top of the line. He was made, his whole life is made for this. He's not going to give up who he is. He's an agent of chaos. That's what he wants. All right, so phone lines are 855-839-1210. That's how you get a line. That's how you get in. Side question today. We did this once. How many months ago is it now, Dan, that you've been married?
It's been a while.
You don't even know the months?
It was July of last year.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
have a
so
cap. Go carry the
12,
5,
13,
carry the 4.
14,
Yeah.
15 months?
15 months ago. We asked this question, I believe it was on a Friday, and the question was simply, the mother-son dance, give us the song that should be played. And Jim Kelly told us, oh, my God, never do that again. Guess what, Jim? We're doing it.
We're
Too
doing
bad.
it again,
Too
baby.
bad, Jim.
Yeah, so if your kids are getting married out there or
Yes.
you got a wedding coming up and you know somebody, today is a show for you because we're going to throw out ideas for that mother-son first dance again.
And the reason is it's Dan's mom's birthday today.
It is. Happy
Yes.
birthday, mother.
This is our salute. Shamelessly going with the side question.
Yeah,
too.
a little personal touch there, maybe some
Yeah.
bias, but why not
Yeah.
celebrate the mother's birthday?
I put the allowance on the side question. If we did it 6 months ago or more, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Unless it's a really good one and we did it yesterday, I might do it again.
Yeah, so it's been probably, 17 months since we last did it, so
Yeah.
let's whip it out again. Well,
All right.
maybe I shouldn't use that term or phrase.
All right, so picture this wedding coming up. What would you suggest? That's at the end of your call. All right? Don't wait until the end. There'll be a mob scene with 15 minutes left into the show. You probably won't get on. Do it throughout the show. And if you're out in the suburbs, are you noticing this? I can't come out. Of course, Pat Malloy has been on this for years. Bill McVeigh over in Ben Salem and the mayor. And now Commissioner Friel, Daniel Friel, who heads up the police chiefs of Bucks County, taking the helm yesterday. The suburbs has to be even blunter, though. And they have to use some lever of power. They have to say to Philadelphia, if you don't rein this guy in to our satisfaction, then we will do X. Otherwise, continuing to complain about him, he's not listening to that. I don't know that he gets off on it and thinks, that's right, I'm ruining the suburbs now. But that's exactly what he's done. He's a menace. 855-839-1210. You get in with Dom and Dan on Talk Radio 1210. All right, it is Dom time. Welcome in, 855-839-1210. We'll talk a lot throughout the show. I got some more. I don't want to develop it now. After the judge, I'll get into this a little bit. A column, a letter, an open letter that you're going to be seeing pop up here. We've been given an advance copy of, and it's about what we're talking about, these inconvenient truths coming out of Philadelphia. Suburbs are finally, at least in public, not just whispering about them, they're addressing them. Now the question is, how do you stop it? And new mayor, new police commissioner, that's a great start. There's one force that is in the way. And until he is mitigated or out of office, not much is going to change because he's going to continue to do it. All right. Wanted to mention, too, the headlines are a bit confusing because Democrats joined with about 100 or so Republicans yesterday to vote, let's see, 300 million, give or take, for Ukraine. Now, this is outside that 24 billion and the other things that might cause the government shutdown tonight at midnight. So I'm looking at Matt Gaetz's Twitter. He says 101 Republicans voted to spend more money. 117 Republicans voted against. Van Drew against this Ukraine money. Fitzpatrick, of course, for it. Every other Democrat that I can look at in our area voted for it. Now, they seem to think, these Republicans, they have all kinds of excuses why they're still voting for more money. Here's the biggest one you're going to hear that I've been able to get out of all this churn around this. Well, we're voting tens of millions of dollars for an oversight committee of the money going to Ukraine. 20 million. I think this. Wait a minute. They're that corrupt. We need to spend $20 million just to check on where all the other billions are going. And you know, it'll be more than the 20 million. Just think of the logic of this. They know how corrupt they are. They know what nonsense this is. But that's not the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is, should we be sending that money despite the corruption and everything else? Is that where we want to go? And I would put it among those that self-identify as Republican voters, conservative, libertarian, straight up Republican, slight edge to saying no, but it's pretty close. I've been getting a lot more calls and seeing a lot more people buying into the notion this is in our self-interest. This is what we have to do. Face it, you're saying a blank check because if there's no movement toward peace, I don't see the Ukrainians driving the Russians out of the country. I don't see that happening. I don't see the Russians overwhelming the Ukrainians and then the Ukrainians having to sue for peace. I see this long stalemate. And I guess that's what you're comfortable with. You're buying into the notion, and you saw that on the debate stage, of at least 4 or 5 of the contenders there, saying that, yep, we're going to spend the money. Ukrainians may get killed, but they're killing off Russians. That's in our interest. Case closed. Is that really what it comes down to? So we're going to give them, we have given them already, $25 billion. We played you that cut from last week from 60 Minutes. Just to prop up their economy, their small businesses and the like. What? We found out in the last 48 hours that if a shutdown happens tonight, and I'm betting there will be a shutdown, not sure how long, the Ukrainians still will get paid. Why do they get paid? Well, it's in our interest to pay them. So you did have over 100 Republicans voting with the Democrats on this one that is outside the defense bill and outside the big picture, these hundreds of millions of dollars. They voted to continue to put them in there. And the only defense I saw were some of these traditional Republicans saying, well, we are going to add, I saw the 20 million figure towards some oversight to prevent corruption. Well, that's one of the arguments we're making against this. But the other argument is, how do we keep on spending this money? How do we have a blank? Face it, it is a blank check. There is no end in sight. See, they're trying to define blank check as any number they ask for, we're going to give. I'm defining it's endless. It will be hundreds of billions and more dollars that are going on here. Remember, it's their economy also. Here's what Rand Paul said to me on Wednesday of this week about this. Why are they still driving to do this?
I think they refuse to see the unintended consequences. They think it's a simple black-white world. There's good and evil, and we should oppose evil. The problem is Ukraine is sort of not exactly the paragon of freedom. I mean, they've canceled elections. Zelensky has said there'll be no presidential election. So they can't even argue that they're supporting a democracy. Zelensky has banned opposition parties. He's also invaded the churches. And so this really isn't, some great country lacking in corruption. Ukraine's in the top 10 for corruption most of the time. So, all that being said, though, Russia's the aggressor. My sympathies are with Ukraine. I hope they win. I hope they push, batter the Russians and push them out. But the longer we have unlimited funding, the less likely any kind of ceasefire or discussion of peace will happen. As long as we keep unlimited funding, Zelensky has said he will not negotiate till Russia's gone not only from eastern Ukraine, but from the Crimea area. Well, they've been in the Crimea area since 2014. And the bigger picture of this is our pressure to expand NATO is a provocation. It's not a justification from what Russia did, but it is a provocation. And the more we provoke having all the former Soviet satellites in NATO, the more it is an affront and a provocation to Russia.
All right, that's Rand Paul laying
we
out just a huge number of points there. All right, I'm starting to get some people countering this. So there's a multitude of reasons why people are against this, but the Republican vote did not completely. I thought it would be on this one, this 300 million. I thought there would be more Republican votes. I thought it would have trouble passing. It did not. They had about 100 votes, 117 opposed, though. All right. In moments, we're going to talk with Judge Carluccio. The judge is the sitting judge out of Montgomery County, now running for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which is not only important in Pennsylvania, but you saw nationwide in the election cycle how that played out. It's amazing how critical Pennsylvania is in this. And I think I'll let her speak, but I think she would bill herself as an originalist, someone who reads a black letter of law and then goes from there. I wish all judges would believe in that and do that. I think things would be clear without a doubt. So what is this race about? How important is it? She's next here on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, for all seafood lovers who still haven't tried Captain Chucky's crab cakes, what are you waiting for? Because at Captain Chucky's, they're always trying to keep things new and fresh. If you haven't tried the new banging crab ravioli, the lobster ravioli with their amazing blush sauce, now's the time. Also try Captain Chucky's brand new product, Philly's Famous Clams Casino, a mouth-watering addition. People love these. Ask your local Captain Chucky's for availability. And Captain Chucky's, all Captain Chucky's have several choices of breaded, non-breaded crab cakes, dessert, soup, sides, appetizers. My personal favorite, they'll have it, the Dom Roll. They only use the highest quality ingredients. Their Gulf shrimp, a huge hit. It's always wild caught, never farm raised. Got the Eagles this Sunday, college football, perfect with Captain Chucky's. We now have 19 Captain Chucky's, soon to be 20. New owners, Frank Velacci, Michaela Burns in Colmar, John and Cindy Clark in Huntington Valley, Tony and Jamie Parson in Cinnaminson and Runnymede, New Jersey. See the Vogelsang family. In Flowertown, see this Maraglia family. In Ocean City, it's Chris and Donna Ryan. In Seattle, see the McCann family. Seattle and Ocean City are open Fridays and Saturdays, noon to 5. And congrats to Sam Cancelleri, Irish Mike McGarry. They have the Medford, New Jersey location, which has just opened the last couple of weeks. Coming soon to Northeast Philadelphia, the Home Circle. Congrats to the Graziani family. Just go to that website. Remember the big website, welovecrabcakes.com.
Here come the judge. Here come the judge.
All right, big issues, big guests. No more important race in this election cycle, and we're almost there, the voting for it. And again, sometimes these are low turnout. You can make a difference. Our guest, Judge Carolyn Carluccio, here on the Dom Show. She's a judge, longstanding in Montgomery County, now running for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Let's bring in the judge. Judge, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for taking time out to join us.
Hey, Don, it's really good to be here.
Well, give us a little bit of listeners because, again, it's rare. Sadly to say, it's usually negative if we know a tremendous amount. It's like an offensive lineman at times with a judge until they reach running for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court or U.S. Supreme Court. Give us a little bit of your background.
I'm happy to do that. Right now, I am the president judge in Montgomery County. I've been on the bench for 14 years there. And Don, what I want to highlight is 2 years ago, when it came time to elect the president judge, it is elected by those judges on the bench. And there are 24 judges on my bench, more Democrats than Republicans now. And I'm happy to tell you that I was unanimously chosen to be the president judge. And that's because the judges on my bench were able to put politics aside and pick the person they thought best equipped to handle the problems facing our county at that time. Before that, I was a federal prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office for nearly 9 years. I prosecuted large-scale drug cases traveling throughout the country. I did gun cases, bank robberies, healthcare fraud. It was truly a great way to learn to be an attorney. After that, I went in and became the first woman chief public defender in Montgomery County. I had 24 attorneys underneath my direction. And what that did for me was, as a prosecutor, I understand how to protect our communities because that is so important. But then as a public defender, I learned that there are constitutional rights that we're each afforded, each accused person is afforded, and we need to uphold those rights. So it's a great balance. And I seek to bring balance to this court. I then became the first woman chief deputy solicitor of the county, representing all 52 departments and working intimately with those departments to keep balance and common sense in our county. I was the director of human resources, president of our 2,000-member bar association, and in July, I just became the president of the State Trial Judges Conference. So not much grass grows under my feet.
Well, I was going to say that. Hobbies, none, unless you can get in a quick 2 holes of golf or something. But here's what's impressive, too. Your story, your backstory. You grew up in a hardworking family of first-generation Italian immigrants and proud Irish Catholics. See, that combination, I grew up in South Philly, too. When you have those two ethnic mixtures, that sets you off on life pretty well.
I think so. I happen to agree with you, Tom. I have to say that my parents are the reason I am who I am today. One lesson that I learned really young was that you always do the right thing. And my dad taught us that very young. And I've carried that one lesson. It doesn't matter that there's nobody there. It doesn't matter if it's unpopular. You do the right thing. And that's carried me through my life, even to this day, being on the bench. I follow the law. My principle is you follow the law. Even if you don't like it sometimes, you must follow the law because that's what a judge's job is. And that's what I've been doing, following the law and upholding the Constitution. And I'm proud to say that I've managed to do that for 14 years and I don't plan to stop now.
Well, that judge would seem to be an easy thing to do. Everybody that I would get to come on here. But as we both know, that is a term of art in that some people believe, say, the Pennsylvania Constitution or certainly the U.S. Constitution is a living document, and they sort of mock or mitigate. They don't get it that, in my view, that's what a judge exactly is supposed to do. Of course, applying it to the case in front of you. But if you can find things in the Constitution that are not actually there, it's chaos.
Yeah. I mean, our Constitution is the bedrock of our society. And without that, we do have chaos. I think that's a great point. And I believe in that firmly. I want to get back to something you mentioned. You were talking about our Italian heritage, and I know you share that. I want to make a point here that, you know, the last Italian-American judge on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court was nearly 20 years ago. So I think it's about time we get an Italian back there. And as far as a woman Italian, I don't think there's been one on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
Well, we have to have a lot.
I'm excited to be that.
Well, is a judge, is it gravy or sauce? Which one do you say?
Oh, gravy.
There you go, Dan. Vote for this woman. All right, across the Delaware Valley, they're checking the mark right there. That's it. That was a critical question.
Boy,
Not-
that was easy, Tom. That was easy.
Not Marbury versus. I'm only a law school dropout. You are an esteemed judge on the way up there. But the gravy answer, absolutely correct. Now,
Seal the deal.
Abortion has made its way into this, and I like the statement that you made of what your stance has been on an issue like that about life, but under the law. Whatever the law is that is protecting that, that's your guidepost.
Yeah, it has fascinated me that my opponents have made this entire race about abortion. And the reality is, it has nothing to do with this race. The law is very set in Pennsylvania, and my job is not to change that law. I'm not taking away anybody's rights. My job is to follow the law, and that's exactly what I will do. I have said that exact same thing since the day I announced I'm running, and I've not changed it once. And yet, it just fascinates me that I'm being attacked for that very reason, being called something I'm not. But that only means they're afraid of me. And I use that as a badge of honor. I'm out there fighting every day. I am much stronger than I look, and I'm going to win this race.
Judge, to a critical area, and I know you can't talk about specific cases, and I think that's a good thing in races like this, et cetera. I wouldn't ask that. But as an overarching picture, of course, the election of 2020, Pennsylvania was the center of this. And again, I think our election laws were pretty clear, but somehow or another, how it came out in the end has really gotten people angry to this day.
Yeah, it's an issue that's going to have to be faced probably at one point in time. I don't really know where it goes from here, but what I can tell you is that everybody should feel like their vote counts. And if there's got to be total transparency in our voting system, and if everybody's comfortable with it and there's no problem with it, then we're better as a society. But once people feel like somebody's hiding something or there's not complete transparency, there's a problem. I don't care if it's the right or the left. Everybody has to feel good about it.
Exactly. Now, in this race, what would you say are other critical issues? I mean, you're defining yourself, and your record defines it really, for want of a better term for listeners, as an originalist, as what the law says, what the Constitution, U.S. and Pennsylvania say. What has happened here? I mentioned abortion. But what other issue, if you could talk about any of those between you and your opponent, where's the difference?
I think the largest difference is really what we talked about is I am not an activist judge. And I do not think it's okay to say, I don't like the law in this situation. Maybe I'll make an exception here. I will not do that. You can count on me to do the right thing. You can count on me to follow the law and uphold our Constitution. I'm not sure that my opponent can say the same thing. And I think that is the biggest distinction. I can also tell you that as the president judge of the third largest county in this Commonwealth, I have the supervisory and advisory authority over all the courts in our county, and that's 24 judges and 30 MDJs, which are magisterial district judges. That's exactly what our Pennsylvania Supreme Court does. Although they hear about 150 cases a year, they also have a lot of other responsibilities and a lot of other activities that really impact people. They're appointing people to boards, to the disciplinary board, on committees. There's a lot that goes on there. And this is something I have experience in. And I don't think there has been a president judge of a county of this size on the Supreme Court that has that kind of experience and can hit the ground running day one.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I call Harrisburg a galaxy far, far away, but we learned during COVID the power that's there. Then during the election cycle, how prominent the Pennsylvania Supreme Court was. But what you're saying and drilling down on this is, I know a little bit about it. You actually live it, that day to day, the power of this court is tremendous in ways that affect our lives that even the media doesn't cover. So for people that want to know more or even better, support you, learn what to do around this campaign, where do they go, Judge?
That's a great question. You go to judgecarluccio.com and Carluccio, CarluCcio. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We need as many people to be involved to spread the word. This is going to become grassroots. And that means I need everybody that's listening to tell 10 people how important this race is. Another quick note is that this is, to my understanding, the only Supreme Court race in the country this year. So that's one of the reasons why Planned Parenthood is putting all their money into this race, that all this national money is coming this way. The attention is there. I need people to react appropriately.
Exactly. Judge, thank you very much. So let's talk again before the election, certainly.
I would love to do that, Dom. Thank you so much for your time.
You are
Have
welcome.
a great day.
Judge Carolyn Carluccio here on Talk Radio 1210. Dan, that was the quintessential question, gravy or sauce? Gravy won. All right. I don't know if
I'm voting for the progressive backed by Planned Parenthood, Dom. Can't do it now.
yes, I don't know if her opponent would come on, but she's playing right into my point, Dan. They're spending over millions of dollars literally on this Supreme Court race, and guess who's doing it? Planned Parenthood. When I tell you that in every race, at every level, down to dog catcher, Joe Biden yesterday opened up the other front. Democracy is at stake. How many times can we say we're not a democracy? How about our constitutional republic? Say that is at stake if Trump is elected. All right, at least you're being technically accurate. They're running on that, but they're also running abortion, abortion, abortion. Now, you just heard her say her position. She's an originalist on this. She's going to go with what the law says. Well, they don't believe that, A, and B, they want an activist judge who is going in any way, shape, or form to advance abortion. That's what they want. It's pretty plain. And the biggest point of this in the long game here, this is the most important election. Big money on the other side. I know the people that are involved in this campaign, and they're very good, but getting people to realize you don't get juiced up just over a hot presidential race. These are the races that decide our lives day after day after day. Think of how many issues this Pennsylvania Supreme Court is involved in. All right, phone lines are 855-839-1210. You get on board. AT&T and Verizon Wireless. All I need you to do is just push pound 1210. Hey, snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel in partnership with Valley Forge Casino, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. And FanDuel is very easy. They even have these pre-made bets set up for you on FanDuel if you're not a football expert. You'll love betting with FanDuel. You get those winnings paid fast. And if you're thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time than right now to get in on the action before the next big game. The app is easy to use, wide range of betting options. Here's how you do it. Just go to FanDuel.com/Dom, D-O-M, and kick off the NFL season for you. That's FanDuel.com/Dom. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official partner of 1210 WPHT. You have to be 21 plus. Present in Pennsylvania. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. That expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, that is our side question today, the song of the mom-son dance. Dan, we got into this. We got a guest at 1, but right after that, here we go. There were protesters there last night of the facial recognition scanning at the Phillies game. I love these people. I love what they did. They actually were in neon green, so you couldn't see their face. Fight for the Future telling us the Borowskis of the world want to normalize the facial scanning. Why not just use your phone? I know you're already say they can track that and the whole thing, but we'll give details on that. It's a good one. The facial scanning for Phillies game to get into your seat more easily. All right, you heard the judge, though. Most important race coming up. No doubt about it. Let's go to Harold in Southampton on Talk Radio 1210. Hello, Harold. Afternoon.
Hey, Don. Hey, I'm going to defer to your superior knowledge here because I'm not 100% sure. Is she currently a Supreme Court judge?
Oh, no. She is the president judge of the Montgomery County judges.
Okay, because I thought, didn't the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania refuse to hear any case regarding the election fraud? Didn't they just dismiss that and never even took it up?
I'd have to look up the Pennsylvania, but the U.S. Supreme Court is the villain here, and they did not get involved in these things. And then that spurred just open warfare on them. They could have headed off before the election. They had cases before them. Yeah.
I seem to think that Pennsylvania also refused to hear any cases regarding that, because, I mean, it was obvious election fraud. I mean, come on, let's all about the drop boxes, Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, look,
everybody on that.
Yeah, it's more the things that they, as activist judges, push through, suddenly saying you can count votes 3 days after the election is over, stuff like that. Yeah, they were one of the trendsetters.
Sure. Well, hey, good luck to Dan there on his home search. I hate to tell him I'm a mortgage consultant. Rates have been tweaking up a little bit, but I will tell you that people ask me when the best time to buy a house is, and I say when you need one. So,
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Harold.
Good.
And I got my first house in '88. The rate was 10 and an 8. I'm still here, and so is everybody else. So,
all right.
You're never going to see those rates again that we saw in the last 2 years.
Harold,
but,
you don't understand. I don't think you know how much I needed to hear that today. So I appreciate that. I appreciate it, brother.
Dan, you're in the new normal.
All righty. Well, thank you. Thank you. What's a mortgage, Dan? I don't even know what that is. Rowan, Hey, by the way, we have an update, and I'm sure Maisie's going to be in charge of that, but you can take some of the burden off. Remember that you take a look at that each week, whatever the amortization rate is, that whole thing.
Yeah.
You pay your principal, but you can pay the interest off, and it's a small fee. Mine was as small as, I think, $2 or $3 the first time we did it.
Yeah, we're thinking about putting like a big, deposit.
That's another good
for
thing
first
to do.
payment, try to knock it off the back end a little bit.
That's there's nothing like that. It not only is good financially, but it's a goal setting thing. I mean, I would actually write a note like take that, to the bank. Now, after 5 years of it, it started to get hefty on this side a little bit too, but I still did it, forced it. That 7 or 8 or extra dollars you needed to get to the end and do it. And when you see the interest you're taking off, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Now you have Maisie. I don't think most people in school
that's
are
the thing
taught
is, I have an accountant that I'm married to. So, you're telling me all this stuff. It kind of just goes right over my head. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go play this back for Maisie when I get home.
No, I'm sure she's.
It's happened probably 4 or 5 times now where we've talked about something financial, and I go back and play it back for Maisie.
It is a big deal, though. It's a big deal to be able to do that.
And we do have some really good news. I'm just kind of holding my tongue while we get all the, stuff ironed out. But hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I'll be talking openly about what's going on. But
okay.
Very positive. Very positive.
Very good. All right. And what's the song that would be great? It's Dan's mother's birthday. We did this 15, 16 months ago. Hit us with that song you would play at the wedding. Mom, son dance. Let's go to Catherine in Philadelphia. All right, Catherine, what's your song?
Boy of Mine by Bing Crosby. It's an oldie but a goodie.
All right, we'll put that on the list. I don't know that I've ever heard that at a wedding.
Yeah,
it is. We'll say it's vintage. We'll put that down. All right. So coming up, we're going to talk with the guy that heads up the Warrington Township Police, Commissioner Friel, but he also heads up the organization of the Chiefs of Police. of Bucks County. He was there yesterday, along with lawmakers who said, you know what? The suburbs are under siege with crime. We need some common sense law. One of them, Dan, is the porch pirate thing. The suburbs are going to suffer more. Well, I don't know where you are in Port Richmond, what might happen there. We don't have a porch, and we have bushes that block the Giordano estate. You know, the private driveway coming up there and all.
Oh, we've given up on shipping anything to our house. Anything that's big enough to fit on our doorstep and not in our mailbox, we'll do a Amazon locker or pick it up at Whole Foods or something like that.
Well, I'm suggesting to you in the new house, though, a private driveway that nobody else can use. That's what we have. You know, I like the guy with the shotgun and no neck out there. Doesn't need a shotgun.
Yeah.
If I had to choose between the shotgun and a no neck, I want a no neck guy. You know, like 5'10", 220, and he can't button the top of his shirt. It would burst. All right, we'll talk with the chief. Then Dan and I, Dan the Red might appear here. I'm not sure. Facial recognition protests at the Phillies game last night. They were pretty colorful, too. We'll tell you what's good that's on TVs, movies, et cetera, coming up today, among other things. Get in at 855-839-1210. It is Dom time. Welcome in. So I led off today telling you it was almost a dream scenario to me that this week the chief of the group that is allied, the Bucks County Police Chiefs, Chief Daniel Friel of Warrington Township or Warrington, talked about the exploding crime across suburban Bucks County, but I think Montgomery County and the others would say the same thing. And catalytic converters, but guns. Driving equity was mentioned. And we had an array of state legislators there who proposed new laws. This porch pirates law, this law that says that if you're a felon caught with a gun, it's going to be mandatory, as it should be, that you're going to get jail time out of that. That is one of the best preventatives out there. You don't want felons carrying guns. Here in Philadelphia, sadly, Larry Krasner bypasses all that stuff, has publicly said he's not going to do that. If there were a state law, he would have to do that. All right, let's go to Chief Daniel Friel. He is the Warrington Police Chief, president of the Police Chiefs Association of Bucks and Montgomery County. That's a lot of area across the suburbs. He joins us here on Talk Radio 1210. Chief Friel, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Well, we know some of your buddies over the years. We're glad to see that you were there, too, with all these legislators, McVeigh and Malloy and a few others. Why at this point? Because it takes a lot to get all those people together in one spot, speaking from the same hymn book on this. What's propelling it?
I think our legislators and our community and the chiefs getting together, we are, as far as the Bucks Chiefs, we are a fraternal organization and we're all sharing data. We're all seeing what's going on in our region, and that includes Philadelphia County, along with Bucks, Chester, Delaware, and Montgomery County. But the title of this was what intrigued me from Senator Farry was it's a crime trends bill package. So what they're trying to do, in my opinion, is it's common sense legislation that we're taking a look at the areas where we're seeing the most increase in crimes, where you mentioned theft of catalytic converters. The big one is the illegal possession of firearms, which we're all seeing, and we're all seeing that on the rise. Gun store robberies. We're seeing the rioting that goes on in the city right now. And what's scary for the suburbs is those meetup rallies where your community quickly gets overwhelmed by all the vehicles and the people that are destructing the area. So
Why are
that's
they,
what intrigued me to talk about that.
Yeah, what's your theory on why they suddenly would be coming? I know when we've had Pat Malloy on, he talked about in Abington. Why would they be coming to the suburbs and suddenly and doing this stuff on a mass level?
I think it's the element of surprise where they'll organize these groups and they may say, let's hit the a certain mall they did in Lower Bucks County. It does quickly strain the municipal resources. We are bordering the city of Philadelphia, which has the fourth largest police department in the city. In the counties, we rely heavily on mutual aid, but if you go to a certain community, say Warrington, you could quickly overwhelm that municipality and police department. But what these operators don't know is we can quickly push the button and we'll get resources from Montgomery and Bucks to come out and help us out.
Driving equity laws. We've talked to other chiefs in the suburbs and their theories or from, when they nab somebody, it seems to be in Philadelphia, you don't have to, the cops are a little bit less proactive now, Chief, because of these. How does that impact across Bucks and Montgomery?
We're personally seeing that. For example, in Warrington, we've seen a 133% increase this year compared to our 3-year average, or it was 89% over 3 years for the illegal possession of firearms. A lot of those offenses are coming during contacts that police pull car stops or they have contact with suspicious persons. So what we're seeing is, another example is we will pull a car stop, say on Warrington on 611, and at one time, and it just happened recently, the operator shut the window. He says it was a suspended registration, And the operator told the officer, "You can't stop me for that," and rolled his window up, attempted to leave.
And this is because in Philadelphia, the cop might be pushed back by that, or in the mind of the operator, they think they have something.
They think that we're not allowed to stop them from that anymore. And we are, because we are part of that Philadelphia region. I think it's maybe a learned behavior there that maybe the residents of Philadelphia are used to that and thinking when they come into Bucks County or Montgomery County that it's a state law that you can't stop me for for not renewing my registration, which is we have to follow the state law, and it's still a violation.
Yeah, it is a learned behavior. I agree with you. We have cops all the time in Philadelphia told, and the other thing, when you mention more guns, they know in car stops, suspicious behaviors of one sort or another, guns and drugs are often taken off the streets, and maybe they don't end up. How far is, I mean, I used to come to Warrington for a school I worked with, but how far would you say Warrington is from the Philadelphia borders?
I would say, this is a guesstimate, I would say 25 miles. If you follow 611 straight down like York Road, it's about 25 miles.
And do you think, though, it's coming mainly from Philadelphia, some of these crimes?
I can tell you before I came on, I just did a quick look. I'm big on statistics, and that's the only way we can kind of judge these things. But it's not all Philadelphia. We are seeing activity. I was looking at our active warrants, and I can tell you that we have warrants from New York, New Jersey, but twice the amount, including our local suburbs, the majority of them are coming from Philadelphia.
And that's 25 miles away, because we know the usual, there's border towns in Philadelphia like Cheltenham and things are going to spill over. But when we start to see this pattern 25 miles away, it's right to have, how many police chiefs and others were involved in this along with the state reps?
Wow. We had Bucks County, obviously the heavy contingent, I would say about 15 chiefs from Bucks County. We've had Montgomery County. You mentioned Chief Malloy. He was there. We had the president of the Southeast Police Chiefs Association of Pennsylvania that represents the Southeastern Pennsylvania corridor. And we also had a representative from the Pennsylvania State Troopers Association. So there was a pretty significant turnout. As I turned around, I was speaking, I looked around, and it was just a wall of police chiefs and commanders because we're all feeling this. And we're not trying to pick on any one area individual, but there is a problem, and we're all seeing that. And we're tasked with protecting our citizens in the community.
And this is one of the best ways to do that, other than to do what I know McVeigh and Malloy, how proactive. And I know the professionalism. My God, the training you guys have, we look you up to, the same kind of thing, Chief. But the laws that they want passed, several Republicans involved. There is a Democrat here with one of them. That's good to see. This should be bipartisan, that if you commit a felony by state law, you should do jail time if you're carrying, by definition, it's illegal.
Yes. I'm a believer the firearms are the big one, and you already know you're not allowed to possess it. You've already been convicted of a felony. And if you get caught again with it, there should be mandatory. There needs to be some teeth in some of these laws because we need to have some accountability, and maybe it'll make that person think twice. I'm not going to carry that gun, or I got to be careful because I don't want to do any hard time.
The catalytic converter, is it just that it's relatively easy to do, crime of opportunity, and could be pretty lucrative if you know what you're doing? Why the surge in that over the last couple of years?
From what I hear, it's the value of the precious metals it contains. I believe our district attorney made an announcement on a big arrest on that, but you need somebody that's pushing it out to the people saying, hey, get me these catalytic converters, I'll buy them. And generally that's an industrial shop or somewhere. It's tied in deeper, but it is quick money and it's very expensive, but it's a cost to all of us. I can tell you this year in Little Warrington, we've had, let me look at my percentage. I don't know, it's just by region, or we've had 64 thefts this year alone. And that's an 85% increase. and a 230% increase average over the past 3 years. So a couple of them were like a specific business, a hauling company where they hit dozens of trucks and stuff like that. But the values can exceed in the hundreds of thousands of the damage and what it does to this equipment.
Yeah, and you're shopping at a mall, you're doing something like that, you come out, and then you have this type of mess. It is in a place where you wouldn't expect it. Well, it is happening there. Is there, you gave a lot of statistics the other day, and you said, too, you're a stat guy. Is there any other stat that you have that you look at it and you go, wow, how could this be?
Well, the theft from vehicles tied into the catalytic converter, I already mentioned that. I did go over the firearm one was a bit surprising for me. Now, they're not astronomical numbers, but when you compare to what Warrington's used to as to what we're seeing now, I was really concerned about that.
I understand. Well, look, I am so glad the legislators and the chiefs of police across Bucks and Montgomery, hopefully the others too will be joining with you guys, push this, because this ought to be done as easily as possible. These are common sense, including the porch pirates thing as we head toward the holidays. These are common sense things that I don't see who could oppose it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the porch pirating thing. The reason you say I'm a stats guy, but a lot of times we can only base on what's reported to us, and sometimes people don't know their packages are missing or they don't bother calling the police. So I do believe it is a bigger crime documented then. So I do support that one as well.
Well, Chief, thank you. It's a pleasure to get to know you too. Whenever you have anything of importance, we'd love to know about it.
All right. And thanks for having me again. It's been a pleasure, and you have yourself a good weekend.
Hey, Chief, my producer wanted to know, are you a fan of the TV show The Wire?
I'm curious, a professional like you that's done it, when you watch The Wire.
You're not the first that asked, but in fact, I just got back from a vacation with some friends, and that was brought up. They know I'm a police officer. And I said, you know what, I'm going to put that in my notes because maybe I want to check that out. So I might take.
Oh, it's probably, we think, the best show in the history of TV, arguably.
I did hear, I've heard that, so I think it's on my list. So when I have some spare time, I'll binge watch it.
All right, Chief. Give us a review, Chief. We're always looking for them. Thank you, Chief. All right, Chief Friel here on Talk Radio 1210.
Great.
Yeah, it's asking cops, what is the best cop show ever? Is always a good
right.
question.
I'm always curious, like when you ask a lawyer, what's the best lawyer show ever? You know, I want to know it's accurate.
The best talk show ever. That's a matter of debate. Okay.
Yeah, Frasier, is it accurate?
Yeah. 855-839-1210. You get on board. Now, let's shift gears a little bit. This group, what's the name of it here? Fight for the Future. They're a techie group, Dan. They show up last night at a Phillies game, playing the Pirates in this time. My God. And one of them is dressed in neon green and a neon mask so that they don't do facial recognition. I saw in here, and I don't have the article in front, I'll get it during the break, that at one game, it may have been last night, 7,000 Phillies fans have already signed up, gone through the process that they facially scan you, and then you just walk in. I agree, of course, with the tech people here saying we're normalizing something in something innocuous. What's the big deal? They're against it. They're saying it normalizes it. They don't trust also whatever Major League Baseball says, that nobody will see the information, no repercussion. Everybody always says that. Why the heck do we have to do facial scanning and normalize something?
It's the future, Dom.
Yeah, right. Well, they say they're fighting for the future too. And they're tech people, Dan, more advanced than we are, I think. I'll speak for myself at least. So why do you always want more cameras, more facial recognition?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes. Yeah.
Why? I just think it's an inevitable future. I think out of convenience, the Phillies game one in particular.
Yeah.
You know, but I get the concern. You know, if it falls into the wrong hands, then yeah, it can be exploited and used as a social credit system and all. But I do think we can't be afraid of utilizing technology to our advantage when it benefits us as a whole. But we can't be stupid about it. That's all my point is.
I would argue, though, that there's minimal advantage that I see with these things, but there's a lot of normalization of it. And that's what they're worried about.
What they're aiming for, my expectation would be for the end of queues. No more lines. You don't have to wait in lines before the game. You just walk into the stadium because they recognize who you are. And I don't know, that might be something positive.
All right. So 855-839-1210. If you go into a Phillies game, would you go facial recognition? About 7,000 people. I mean, and this just has started. I don't know why you can't use your phone, engage in that. I don't know about what you're saying, Dan. If you're just going to go, is there a special line there? I don't think so, but maybe there is. If you're using facial recognition, they have a portal that you go through.
Yeah. And my thoughts are on this. We're talking about a company here using it for ticket purposes. What's the nefarious thing that they can do with your face, your data of your face? I guess they could sell the data, but we're not talking about a governmental control aspect here. We're not talking about.
Well, they could sell it to the government is the fear.
Yeah, they could. You're right.
But it's a normalizing it that we're getting used to this type of thing. That's what their angle. We got to get them on, I think, and make their arguments.
I mean, were you creeped out with the face unlock of the iPhone, or did you just set it up willy-nilly like everyone else did? I mean, it's the same idea.
All right.
And so why do we trust Apple, but we don't trust the Phillies ticketing company that's doing this just to let us into a ballpark?
Well, my answer is, I'm kind of unaware of the iPhone. I just willy-nilly went into it. But when I'm aware of it, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try to do it as little as I can. I think we already have enough cameras. Again, I don't think they fight crime in the manner we're talking about that. How many people are going to be caught because they were on camera the other night? Now, look, I'm a fan of what the Philadelphia police did. Think of all the people we have on camera looting, et cetera. How many of them I want to see the numbers. The people that got caught so far, they're the people that were actually there doing it, and the cops caught them. I don't hear anything about catching people because they were other than Meatball, who now is going straight.
Meatball.
All right, we got people jumping in here saying, Dan the Red, you're giving up freedom for security. That's a line there.
So if
you're giving it up for convenience.
If Meatball goes straight, does that mean she's now a hot dog?
It means she's just spaghetti without meatballs. All right, 855.
Ground beef?
Yes. We'll see if she goes.
Hamburger?
We'll see if she goes straight.
A flat meatball, right?
She's thinking of filing a lawsuit, it seems to me, against the prison and these other women that were there. She doesn't like it. What a story this week. Only in Philadelphia. By the way, giant graffiti on the side of a wall. Huge. Free meatball. Oh. They put it up already. My God. All right. So it's 855-839-1210. You get on board. Are you a fan of this? Convenience, more facial recognition, more things. It's not just the Phillies. You could do that with just about anything and make it easier. Is it already so inconvenient to deal with it? 855-839-1210.